Hi everybody, Dr. Pingle here. Today's lesson is on map design research. So one of the interesting things about this job is that we're discovering new things all the time about how to better communicate with maps, and I thought I'd share some of those developments with you today. So map design research has pretty long origins. So kind of one of the fathers of real map design research is Arthur Robinson, who was a researcher out of the University of Wisconsin-Madison, right next door. Famous program with one of the best, maybe the best cartography program in the United States. Arthur Robinson published A Look of Maps in 1952 and kind of ushered in this new era of academic cartography, where we were really starting to apply the scientific method to map design. Up to this point, we are kind of interested in what works, but not necessarily why. That kind of changes over the next couple of decades. This is Arthur Robinson, considered the unofficial dean of academic cartographers in the United States, and really worked to transform UW-Madison into one of the top cartography programs in the United States. Many of the academic journals that we use in cartography to publish our research bear their imprint of Arthur Robinson. He's the one that got started the American Cartographer, which became GIS, the Cartography and Geographic Information Science Journal. Wrote 6 volumes in the Elements of Cartography, and has a really amazing cartographic imprint, the academic family tree of cartographers that work in the United States. Many of them trace their academic lineage back to Arthur Robinson. I actually think Arthur Robinson looks a lot like Vincent Price, if you know who that is. They just happen to be kind of at the same angle here, so there you go. This is an image of that Arthur Robinson family tree. Arthur Robinson had a lot of graduate students, and this is his graduate students plus their graduate students, and so on, tracing all the way back. So probably not many of these names are going to be super familiar to you, but Alan McEachran writes one of the most widely used cartography books. We've seen Color Brewer, which gets its name from Cynthia Brewer, right here at the bottom. So lots and lots of connections in cartography back to Arthur Robinson. Another visualization of that laid out in table form. We've seen one of the imprints of Arthur Robinson. So in many of the examples that I've shown, we've used a Robinson projection for the United States. This is a compromise projection. It's neither equal area, nor is it conformal. But it's a nice compromise, and the story is that Arthur Robinson sort of finessed this until he got something that he thought was visually pleasing. This was the default projection for the National Geographic Society for the latter half of the 20th century. One of the other pioneers in American research cartography is George Jenks. So one of George Jenks's early contributions was the use of eye tracking studies to figure out what people are looking at. So this is an example of a figure, a dot density map of, in this case, it's hogs in North Carolina in 1967. And this line that you see here traces the pattern that people make when they visually scan. And one of the things that ought to be apparent is that there's this connection between what people are looking at and the density of these dots. So kind of an interesting finding. And you can see things starting at the title. So analytically demonstrating the importance of putting the title at the top, whereas the legend kind of comes up secondarily, and then kind of the processing of the map. This is eye tracking studies are kind of widely used. We use this at the V'ger lab, which studies spatial cognition, hosted by myself and Dr. Ledoux in the geology department, using eye tracking to sort of see how people are taking apart visualizations. In this case, we have a heat map that's demonstrating what people are looking at, and you can see these kind of blobs over the symbols demonstrating the amount of time that people are spending at looking at different elements. So I think in this case, the question that was on that was a part of the study had to do with analyzing connections up here. So you see some light blue in the map, but a lot of attention paid to the symbology. Another instance of that, again, the dark blue showing what people are looking at are the duration of the eye fixations, or potentially the number of eye fixations. This is a picture of George Jenks. George Jenks has contributed a lot more than just eye tracking. So he really spent much part of the better part of the 1950s evaluating how cartography was taught in the United States. Made significant contributions to the pedagogy. One of the things that I really wanted to demonstrate was this one. He was responsible for the development of natural breaks for choropleth classification, which we use all the time in GIS. This is an example of where you'll see that within ArcGIS. So we want to classify something. We can bring up this dialog box, and we probably hit the classify button here and looked at this natural breaks. You may not have keyed in on this Jenks, but that's where this comes back to. So Jenks was the researcher who came up with the method to automatically break down your data into those with those class boundaries. Finally, I wanted to show where we are kind of currently. So the organization, a fairly recent National Science Foundation program, is SILC, the Spatial Intelligence and Learning Center, that focuses pretty extensively on spatial cognition in the geosciences and geography. So this represents kind of the collaboration of many researchers on the web talking about spatial cognition, map research. We all sort of coordinate via this website. So that's a quick introduction to map research. It goes much deeper than that. If you're interested in the subject, definitely take a course on geovisualization, and you can dive into to more details on that. Thanks for listening.